They thought I was too old to fight back. They thought a tired woman with soft hands and a slower walk would sign whatever paper they slid across my kitchen table. When the pen moved and everyone exhaled, they believed they'd won. They didn't realize that the house they were reaching for doesn't just stand on brick and lumber. It stands on promises. And I still know how to keep mine. My name is Evelyn Johnson, and I'm 67 years old. I raised 7 children in this house, plus one little girl God sent me when I wasn't expecting to mother anyone new. I call her my miracle, though her name is Alina. The others came into this world with my breath in their ears and my hands on their backs. Alina came with her shoulders tight and her eyes searching the door, like the world taught her to be ready to run. I taught her to stay. On Sundays, this house used to hum, pots tapping, radio humming, laughter spilling down the hallway, even when the words were sharp. Somewhere along the way, that sound thinned out. The laughter turned into stories told at my expense, little jokes about my memory, my way of folding laundry, the way I count coupons like I'm guarding treasure. The first time I heard one of my daughters imitate my voice, high and crackly, I told myself it was harmless. You can forgive a lot when you remember their baby smell and their first steps on these same floors. But disrespect is a slow leak. It empties a home until you wake up one day and the living room echoes. The papers arrived on a Tuesday. Marcus and Nicole stood at the doorway with coffees they didn't offer me, and a man I didn't know, tall and impatient with a leather folder. "Mama," Nicole said, "we just want to get ahead of things. We found a safer option for you, assisted living with medical staff on site. They've got a van that runs to church on Wednesdays." She smiled the way people do when they've already decided. The man with the folder said something about a quitclaim deed. "Just a formality, keeps the title clean." He talked too fast and looked at his watch while I was reading. I read slow on purpose. Working as a nurse taught me that hurry is where mistakes bloom. He pushed a pen toward me. I set it back in the tray and said I needed my glasses. Then I excused myself to the bathroom and called Alina. "Don't sign," she whispered. "No hello needed. I'll be there in 20. Stall." I moved slowly on purpose after that, asking questions I already knew the answers to. What does this part mean? Why is my middle initial missing? Where's the notary? Marcus laughed like I was adorable. "Ma, it's standard. We've got it handled." When I came to the line that said consideration, $10, I looked up. "My home is worth more than $10, I said. Nicole put a hand on my arm like I'd gotten confused. "It's just how they write it," she said. "Legal language. People always call it help when they want something from you." Alina arrived without knocking, breathless from the porch steps, her hair pulled back and her eyes already counting. She greeted everyone, even the man with the folder, and sat beside me. She didn't raise her voice. She asked for a copy of whatever I was signing for our records, and when the man hesitated, she smiled like a school teacher. "We'll just take a quick phone scan then," she said, and her camera made that soft shutter sound I've heard 1,000 times at birthdays and graduations. Marcus said we were making this complicated. "Mama, the house is big, the stairs are steep, and last week you slipped getting out of the tub." He looked at Alina when he said it, like my accident was her fault for not being here every second. I didn't remind him that he lives 10 minutes away and hasn't changed a light bulb in my kitchen since last Christmas. "Then let's talk about making the tub safer," Alina said, not giving her home away. He told her she wasn't blood. The word landed like a dropped skillet. I felt something old and stubborn lift its head inside me. I thought about the nights Alina slept on my chest, the morning she came home from school with her hair cut jagged because some girl called it nappy, the way she held my hand tight at my sister's funeral. Blood is easy. Love is work. I picked up the pen. Everyone watched the pen. I wrote my name where it asked for acknowledgement of receipt, because receiving is not the same as agreeing. Then I pushed the paper back and said we'd meet at a proper office with a proper notary at a proper time. The man with the folder said his schedule was limited. So is mine, I told him. Wheel of Fortune comes on at 7. They left in a huff of polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. When the door closed, Alina exhaled and leaned her head on my shoulder. They'll be back, she said, but we'll be ready. That night the house was too quiet. I boiled a small pot of grits and ate them at the counter with butter melting in the middle, the way my own mama taught me. I turned on the porch light and looked out across the little yard I'd mowed with a push mower for years, listening to crickets click like old clocks. A home has a heartbeat. If you live in it long enough, your own heartbeat learns to keep time with its creaks and sighs. I could feel my pulse steady again in the familiar rhythm of floorboards and the refrigerator's hum. My phone buzzed. A message from Nicole popped up, sweet as tea. We love you, Mama. Let's just do what's best. She added a heart. I typed and erased 3 times and finally wrote, What's best has my signature on it. Alina came back the next morning with a spiral notebook and a calm I recognize as her working tone. She'd already checked the county clerk's website before sunrise. No filings yet, she said, but the name of that notary on the printout is odd. He's not on the current commission list. She had a list of questions for the bank, the notary board, and the title office. She printed copies of my driver's license, social security card, and the deed I'd put in a fireproof box years ago. We drank coffee at the table where the papers had sat yesterday and drew a map of the next 2 weeks. It felt like studying for an exam you didn't know you'd scheduled. By noon, Marcus texted that he could bring the notary to me, as a courtesy. When Alina asked for the notary's commission number, the replies slowed down. An hour later, Nicole called crying. Why are you making this hard? She asked. People will think we don't care about you. Her tears used to melt me. This time I heard the script underneath. I told her caring never required a deed. That evening, Jerome pulled up in a truck I'd never seen before and paced my driveway like a man measuring lumber. He asked about repairs I'd been ignoring. I told him I'd been ignoring disrespect, not repairs. He laughed and said I was feisty for my age, which is another way of calling a woman's wisdom inconvenient. When he finally left, Alina stood on the porch with me watching the taillights fade. They're coordinating, she said softly. Texts, calls, rehearsed lines, a borrowed notary. It's not just impulse. She glanced at me. We're going to need to be smarter. Baby, I told her. I've been outsmarting things since the day I kept your brothers fed on a nurse's paycheck and coupons. I know how to stretch soup and stretch a prayer. We can do both. She smiled then, and for a moment her face looked like it did when she was 9. Hope mixed with relief like sunlight on wet pavement. 2 days later, a letter came from a company I'd never heard of, offering a fast cash solution for untapped home equity, with my name pre-printed and a cheerful promise to handle all paperwork. I set it next to the other letter, one from a senior care consultant who heard I might be considering a transition. The air around me felt suddenly crowded, as if strangers were whispering through the keyholes. I realized this wasn't just my children's bright idea. This was an industry, a pipeline, and somehow my name had slid onto it. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked the house the way nurses walk night rounds, quiet, attentive, listening to small mechanical breaths. In the hallway, I stopped by the picture that hangs above the console. 8 faces crammed in one frame, all of us squinting into the sun at a park we couldn't afford, but visited anyway. I touched each face with my fingertip. 1, 2, 3. And when I reached Alina, I left my hand there. The next morning, Alina set her notebook down and said, "We're going to bait the hook." She outlined a family trust meeting for Sunday after church. "We'll make it sound like we're considering their plan," she said, "and we'll ask questions they can't answer without showing their hand." She tapped the page where she'd written 3 words. "Who benefits now?" I looked at her neat handwriting and felt the tiredness drop off me like an old coat. "They think this is about a deed," I said. "It's about belonging. It's about a mother's name." Alina nodded. "Then let's make them say out loud what they've only said in corners. People think age makes you smaller. Sometimes it just makes you harder to knock off your feet. On Sunday, the house will hum again, not with pots and laughter this time, but with the sound of consequences taking their seats. They believe they've already won. After all, they brought forms and a stranger with a pen, but they're walking into a room where truth has been waiting patiently, like a good usher at the back of a church. And when it's time, truth will tap them on the shoulder and show them to their place." Sunday sat on the calendar like a bright pin, but trouble didn't wait for Sunday. Alina and I spent Friday morning at the bank because that's where paper trails like to hide. I wore my church coat even though the day was warm. People talk to you different when you look like you belong to yourself. The young man at the desk tried to offer me a new checking promotion until Alina asked, gentle as a lullaby, if any home equity loan inquiries had been made under my name. He clicked and frowned and clicked again. "There was a call," he said finally. "A pre-qualification question 2 weeks ago. They asked about estimated value, mortgage balance, monthly income." He looked at me, then at Alina. "No application filed, just notes." "They use notes like seeds," Alina said when we got back to the car. "They scatter them and see what grows." At the county clerk's office, we stood in a short line that moved like molasses, and when we reached the window, Alina slid a slip of paper to the clerk. The clerk typed, the way clerks type when they have learned not to be surprised by family fights. "No deed change recorded," she said, "but keep checking. Stuff comes in batches at the end of the day." She tapped a card with the website address and a QR code. "You can search by name." We picked up a stack of handouts about fraud alerts, and on the way out, Alina stopped by a bulletin board and took a picture of a flyer, "Report notary misconduct." "Just in case," she said. "I cooked stew that afternoon because stew calms a house." I diced and browned and stirred until the air tasted like pepper and thyme. Alina sat at the table with her notebook open, drawing boxes and arrows. She labeled one column people and the other incentives. Under my children's names, she wrote little notes like a detective who loved everyone she had to investigate. Marcus, mortgage late. Nicole, childcare costs. Jerome, new truck purchase. She didn't accuse, she mapped. "Who benefits now?" she kept saying, pen tapping, quiet rhythm. "Who benefits now?" Toward evening, DeAndre stopped by. He came without his girlfriend and smelled like the workshop where he spends his days. He didn't sit, just let his hand hover over the stew pot like a man warming his bones. "I don't like all this," he said, eyes on the steam. "I don't like the way they talk to you, but I also don't like the stairs in this house." He looked at me then. "Ma, if I fell, you would come," I said. "That's how family works," he swallowed. "Sometimes I don't know how ours works anymore." He took a bowl, ate standing up, and before he left, he pressed a folded paper into my hand. It was a screenshot printout, clipped from the siblings group chat. The top message was Nicole's. If we don't move now, she'll lawyer up. The next line was Marcus. The buyer's ready this quarter, quick close. DeAndre had circled those words, buyer's ready, with a shaky pen. I shouldn't have given you that, he said, but you should know the wind that's blowing. When the door closed behind him, the house seemed to breathe out. Saturday was for small preparations. Alina set up my old phone to record with one tap. She showed me how to leave it on the sideboard with the screen dark. Not to trap them, she said, but to keep the truth from sliding off the table. She printed a simple sheet titled Family Trust Questions and put it under a placemat. She arranged the chairs so no one could angle behind me. Then she looked at me the way she did the first time she asked if she could call me Mama. We can still call this off. If we call it off, I said, they'll move it somewhere I don't live. In the afternoon, a white sedan pulled up, and a woman in a navy blazer walked to my porch with a tote bag and the brisk look of someone who stays on schedule. Mobile notary, she said when I opened the door. I have a slot for you today. I didn't book you, I said. Your family did, she replied, already reaching for the tote. Alina stepped between us with a smile that could cut paper. Can we see your commission card? She asked. The woman blinked, produced a laminated card, and Alina snapped a picture. And your current journal? The woman hesitated a beat too long. We'll pass for today, Alina said. If you leave your business card, we'll verify your commission and call if we need you. The woman's smile drooped. She left a card and walked back to the white sedan, talking to someone on speaker before she even closed the door. Inside, Alina typed the commission number into the state website. Expired last month, she said softly. She reapplied, but it's pending. She picked up the business card and turned it over. On the back, in blue ink, someone had written the name of a title company I didn't recognize and a phone number with 2 numbers scratched out and rewritten. They're not careful, she murmured. They don't think they have to be. That evening, I called Nicole. Bring everyone at 2 tomorrow, I said. We'll hear your plan. Her relief came through the line like the hiss of opening a soda. You won't regret it, Mama, she said. This is going to be best for you. After I hung up, I sat with that sentence like a stone in my lap. Best for you, like a lullaby sung in the wrong key. Sunday morning, I put on my blue dress and my flat shoes. At church, the choir sang a hymn about shelter, and I stood very still with my hands on the back of the pew, feeling the wood grain under my fingers the way I feel the banister at home. A woman I've known since we were girls squeezed my elbow on the way out. You look like you're walking through weather, she said. Do you need an umbrella? I told her I had one, the kind you can't fold and tuck away, a daughter who keeps a notebook and asks the right questions at the right time. We set the table with water glasses and a plate of cornbread. The house felt like a stage before the curtain rises. Alina checked the recorder and tucked the trust questions under a placemat where I could slip it out easy. Don't argue, she whispered. Ask. Let them walk into their own answers. They arrived in 2s and 3s, carrying plastic containers and careful faces. Marcus in a press shirt, Nicole with a binder, Jerome with his jaw set. Patrice hugged me too long. Calvin looked at his phone. Tasha's eyes darted like birds. DeAndre stood by the window with his hands in his pockets. Thank you for coming, I said. I want to understand what you're asking me to do. Nicole opened the binder like it was a gift. This is a transition plan, she said. We've lined up a facility with an available studio. We've got transportation options, medication management, meals, community activities. We can list the house as is, or do a few cosmetic updates for a higher price. She slid a sheet to me with numbers and bullet points. The font was cheerful. We'd put the proceeds into a family-managed account so everything is transparent. Who manages the account? Alina asked. sweet as iced tea. Well, Nicole said, Marcus has the most financial experience. Marcus nodded. It's not about control, he said. It's about making the math work. I pulled out the paper from under the placemat and set it on the table. Who benefits now? I read. Right now? This week. Not someday. Who gets money now? Who gets favors now? Who gets to stop worrying about something now? Silence has a sound. It crackled between us like paper near a flame. The buyer, Jerome said finally. We have someone who can close quick. He's been looking for a long lot in this zip code. Cash offer. No appraisal, no inspection drama. We can be done in 30 days. Who is we? Alina asked. Jerome looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Nicole. The family, he said. Us. Is his name on the buyer line? Alina asked, tapping the sheet. Is yours? Is mine? Or is it a company name you can't spell without Googling? It's an LLC, Marcus said. That's how real estate works now. I looked at each face around the table. The baby cheeks I'd kissed were gone. What remained were the adults those babies turned into, with their own bills and bruises and quiet hungers. I wasn't mad at hunger. I have known it like a roommate. I was mad at the way they were naming it generosity. Why now? I asked. Why this week? Why not last year or next spring when the garden wakes up? Because you're slipping, Nicole said too fast. You almost fell again in the tub and... She stopped, startled by the look on my face, then softened her voice. Mama, we just... Alina leaned forward. We found an expired commission on the notary your friend sent. We traced a phone number to a title office 2 towns over. We saw a group chat message about a buyer ready this quarter. She folded her hands like she was praying. Say out loud what you are doing. Don't make our mother carry your words for you. Jerome pushed his chair back. This is an ambush. This is a table, I said. Chairs are for sitting and talking. You can leave if you prefer to talk in hallways. Patrice started to cry. Calvin put his phone down. DeAndre stared at the glass of water in front of him, like it held a better answer. Tasha whispered, We thought you'd be relieved. I opened my mouth to speak, but Alina's phone buzzed and skittered against the wood. She glanced down, and her face changed. County clerk alert, she said. New document submitted for Evelyn Johnson. My name sat there in the air like a bell that had just been struck. Alina tapped the notification, thumb quick and steady. The website loaded slow, as if it understood what it carried. The screen showed a line of text. Instrument received. Deed. Pending verification. She zoomed in on the tiny preview image. Even tiny, I recognized the loop of a J, and the way my hand tends to lift between the H and the N when I sign Johnson. The curve looked clumsy, like someone had studied my name and traced it from memory. I felt my cheeks go hot and my hands go cool. Nicole whispered, That's not possible. Marcus said, We didn't file anything. Jerome said nothing at all. Who benefits now? Alina repeated, softer than before. The front door knocked hard, 3 fast raps. Everyone jumped. Through the glass, I saw the navy blazer from yesterday and a second figure, a man carrying a slim briefcase. The woman lifted a hand and smiled like she'd been invited. Alina looked at me. I straightened my dress and stood. Let's see, I said. Which story tries to walk through my door today? They stood on my porch like people sure the door would open. The woman in the navy blazer had the tote again. The man with the briefcase smiled the way people smile when they're about to tell you what's good for you. Alina met them at the threshold. Names for my notes? She asked, friendly as a neighbor borrowing sugar. Darla Mason, the woman said. Mobile notary. Evan Bray, the man added. Title services. I coordinate documents so folks don't have to fuss. Lovely, Alina said. We're keeping a record for Mama's files. She raised her phone a hair. Just an audio note so we don't lose details. They hesitated, then followed me inside like they'd decided we were harmless. We sat at the table where I feed people and pay bills and count coupons. Evan set his briefcase down and pulled out a slim folder. Shiny, new, full of numbers and confidence. Darla placed a leather-bound book next to it, but she kept her hand on the cover like a woman guarding a purse on a bus. Before we begin, Alina said, could we peek at your commission card and journal entry for any documents you notarized for Mrs. Johnson? Her voice made it sound like she was asking about a recipe. Darla's smile pinched. She slid her card forward. Alina snapped a picture. And your current journal? Alina repeated. Darla flipped it open to a page with careful lines and a lot of white. There was an entry for my name. The date was 3 days ago. The ID listed didn't match the last 4 of my driver's license. The signature in the box looked like my name had been dressed up for church by a stranger. Where did we meet on this date? I asked. My memory can be slippery. Big B Coffee, Darla said quickly. You had a peach tea. I stared at her. 3 days ago was Wednesday, I said. On Wednesdays, I sit with the church women in the basement and fold bulletins. We drink coffee there. It's burnt. Evan laughed like we were cute. Sometimes people mix days up. Alina tapped the page with one finger. There's a thumbprint box here, she said quietly. It was empty. And the ID number is wrong, and the address field is blank. Darla's smile thinned to thread. Not all states require... We're not discussing states, Alina said calmly. We're discussing truth. Evan cleared his throat and took a new sheet from the folder. Let's make this simple, he said. The deed has been submitted for recording. This is just an occupancy affidavit and a post-closing acknowledgement. It confirms you understand the transition plan and that you'll cooperate with the buyer's contractor for basic safety work. He slid the paper toward me, casual, as if he were offering napkins. I looked at the top line. I, Evelyn Johnson, residing at. The words swam until they settled in a shape I knew too well. A story written for me, not by me. Who is the buyer? Alina asked. An entity, Evan said. Clean title is easier that way. Name of the entity? She asked, still kind, still recording. Garden Row Properties, LLC? He said it like a magician revealing a dove. And the manager of that LLC? Alina kept her pen poised. Evan's mouth opened, then closed. Our contact is Marcus Johnson, he said finally. He's not the manager. He's just facilitating. Across the room, DeAndre made a sound, a small breath that sounded like a hinge. Alina wrote the words down slowly. Then she reached into the sideboard drawer and pulled out a single page she'd printed the night before. She set it on the table like a card in a quiet game. The title said, Declaration of Intent to Establish Family Trust, Draft. Below it, in simple language, it said no transfers would be valid without my signature in front of a licensed attorney and a licensed notary, whose commission we verified in advance. At the bottom was a blank line labeled Guardian Witness. Alina M. Darla read it fast and tried to hand it back. Evan didn't touch it. Alina didn't push it. She just let it sit there, gentle as a pebble in a shoe. Let's talk about Wednesday, Alina said. If Mrs. Johnson allegedly signed anything, where is the video of that signing? Where is the clear copy of her ID? Where is the receipt for your notary fee? Where is the buyer's proof of funds? Where is a single photograph of my mother at this coffee shop where she supposedly drank peach tea? Evan's smile was gone. Remote sessions are... Then the platform will have a recording, Alina said. Send the link to this email. She slid him an index card with an address she'd made just for this fight. We'll share it with the clerk, the notary board, and law enforcement if needed. Darla closed her journal. We're not required to. You're required not to lie, Alina said, still soft. Everything else is negotiable. The room watched the two of them. You could hear the refrigerator hum. Evan reached for a different tactic. Look, he said, leaning forward. These processes move fast. If you fight the tide, you'll just get wet and exhausted. The buyer is already scheduling a contractor. We'd like to avoid a notice to vacate situation. 30 days is tight. The word vacate hit my chest cold. You're telling a woman to leave the house she paid for, I said, with the oven she taught 8 children to use, and the steps she learned to climb 2 at a time when she was younger than all of you. You're saying that like you're offering to carry my groceries. It's standard, Evan said, spreading his hands. Wrong things get called standard when folks do them often enough, I answered. Alina slid the draft trust back into the drawer and brought out a manila envelope instead. She laid down a copy of my original deed from the fireproof box, the tax bill with my name on it, and a printed sheet from the county website. Fraud alert. Owner enrollment confirmation. She placed them in a straight row and tapped each one. I'm sure you both know, she said, that the clerk's office can flag suspicious filings for review. A flagged instrument is not invincible. It can be frozen for investigation, and forged deeds have consequences that taste worse than burnt coffee. Darla stood. We should go, she said. Evan stayed seated a second longer, weighing the air. Then he slipped the occupancy affidavit back into his folder. We'll be in touch, he said, which is what people say when they plan to do things where you can't see them. At the door, Alina called after them, polite as always. Please send the remote session recording, she said, and the notary journal page with the thumbprint you forgot. They left without answering. After the door closed, my children looked at me like the light had changed, and they weren't sure why. Patrice spoke first. I didn't know about any recording, she said, mascara smudging. Calvin said he thought this was just the smart way. Tasha kept whispering. We just thought. DeAndre stared at the floor. The group chat, he muttered. I told them not to rush. Marcus's jaw worked. This is a misunderstanding, he said. Business moves have steps, and sometimes the paperwork. You put your name as the contact for the buyer, Alina said. That's not a step. That's a choice. Nicole's voice trembled. We're trying to keep you safe, Mama. Then learn the difference between keeping and taking, I said. We broke for air. People used the bathroom, stood in the yard, called babysitters. The house shook itself like a dog after a bath and settled again. Alina went to the sink and filled a glass for me, the way I used to do for her after bad dreams. Next moves, she said quietly, just for me. Tomorrow we file a formal complaint with the notary board. We send a letter to the title company demanding a freeze. We request a copy of the recording from any remote session. We go to legal aid first thing. I nodded. And the church? I asked. I'll ask Miss Ruth to write a note about Wednesday, she said. Time stamped. We'll get the sign-in sheet too. While we were still standing there, her phone buzzed. She looked down, and her face went pale, then calm, like a nurse hearing a code and already moving. What is it? I asked. She turned the screen so I could see. County clerk, instrument recorded, deed, a number, a book and page. The word sat black on white like a verdict. Pending verification is over, Alina said, voice steady. They pushed it through. I felt the room tilt, then right itself. What does that mean? Patrice asked from the doorway. It means, Alina said, sliding her notebook open again, pen ready, we move faster. The door knocked a second time. Not polite raps this time. Hard, official. Through the glass, I could see a different man, short sleeves, a badge clipped to his belt, a paper in his hand. Behind him, the navy blazer sat in the white sedan at the curb, engine idling. Alina's eyes met mine. "Ready?" she whispered. I squared my shoulders. "Baby," I said. "I've been ready since I learned to keep soup boiling when the gas company forgot my name." She opened the door. The man at the door introduced himself like he was reading off a form. Process server. He held out an envelope with my name in block letters. Alina asked for his card and took a picture of it. He didn't come inside. He didn't need to. The envelope came in just fine without him. Inside were 2 papers. One said, "Notice to occupant, change of ownership." The other said, "Request for access, pre-closing inspection, Tuesday at 9 a.m. in the morning," as if Tuesday belonged to them. At the bottom was a signature that looked like a curl of smoke and the letters GRP, which I now knew meant Garden Row Properties, a name as friendly as a picket fence. "They're moving faster," Alina said. She opened her notebook and made a new page. Timeline. She wrote Sunday, 2:40 p.m., service of papers. Then she drew a line and wrote Tuesday, 9 Tower a.m., attempted entry. Marcus tried to make his voice low and reasonable. "Mama, this is procedural. You don't have to be upset. We'll handle it." "You've been handling it," I said. "That's why my name showed up on a deed I didn't sign." He looked at his shoes. Nicole shuffled papers in the binder like the answer was hiding under a tab. We didn't argue. Alina wouldn't let us. "We have a clock now," she said. "We use it." She handed me my purse like it was a shield. "We're going to church first, then the station. We're going to leave footprints on the right floors." Miss Ruth was still in the fellowship hall, stacking hymnals. She wrote a short letter about Wednesday on the spot, her cursive steady as sewing. The church secretary printed the bulletin folding schedule and highlighted my name. At the police station, the desk sergeant listened without rolling his eyes, which I took as a blessing. He typed while Alina talked about notary commissions and clerk's alerts, and a video we hadn't seen yet. He gave us a case number and told us to keep every scrap of paper like it was money. Monday morning, we sat on hard chairs at the legal clinic with a dozen other people holding folders like life preservers. A young attorney named Ms. Chen called our names. She had a pen that clicked loud and a way of looking you straight in the face that felt like a porch light. "First," she said, "we file an affidavit of fraud with the clerk and ask them to flag the instrument. Second, we request a temporary restraining order to stop access and any lockouts until this is sorted. Third, we record a lease pendens. Notice to the world there's a dispute about this title. Fourth, we report the notary to the state board with copies of everything wrong in that journal. Fifth, we send a demand to the title company for all remote session records." She clicked the pen once more. "Today." Alina's notebook flew. I just breathed. Sometimes the bravest thing you do is inhale. By noon, we had copies of stamped forms that smelled like toner and hope. Miss Chen sent an email while we sat across from her. Subject line, "Urgent, preservation of evidence, alleged forged deed." She copied the title company, the notary board, and a fraud unit in the county attorney's office. Then she turned to me. "If anyone comes before the hearing," she said, "you don't let them in. You call non-emergency and ask for a civil standby. You tell them you are an owner disputing a fraudulent deed and you have a hearing scheduled. Use those words." When we got home, there was a piece of paper tucked under the mat like an invitation. It gave contractor access instructions and listed rules for personal property removal. The word removal made my stomach go hard. Alina took a photo, slipped the paper in a plastic sleeve, and taped it next to the door camera with a note. Do not enter. Title in dispute. Police will be called. She wrote the case number big. At 8:50 Tuesday morning, a white pickup parked in front of my house like it had a right. A man in a neon vest walked up the steps and tried the knob. Alina opened the door 2 inches with the chain on. Access denied, she said. Warm as a smile you give a stranger asking for something that's not his. Title dispute. Hearing scheduled. You are on camera. He swallowed, tried to bulldoze with his voice. We have authority from the buyer. You have a piece of paper, Alina said. Authority is what a judge signs. If you'd like to speak to my mother's attorney. A second man got out of the truck. I recognized him from Sunday, the one who had paced like he was measuring. He was younger than he wanted to be and older than his temper. Lady, he said, we can be nice, or we can be quick. We can be legal, Alina answered. He took a step like he might test the chain. That's when the squad car turned the corner. The neon vest stepped back fast. 2 officers walked up the path with their hands open. Alina explained. She didn't point or accuse. She laid out the timeline like cards. Deed alert, service, clinic, stamped papers. The older officer looked at the note with the case number and nodded. He told the contractors that entry wasn't happening today and wrote something in a small notebook. The younger officer looked at me. Ma'am, he said, if anyone threatens you, you call 911. Don't wait. Don't be polite about it. I can be polite and fast, I said. I was a nurse. They left without changing anything but the air. The pickup idled, then rolled away. As it turned the corner, my phone buzzed. Miss Chen, hearing set for Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Bring all documents and witnesses you can. She added a little gavel emoji, which made me like her even more. That night, we made what Alina called a war table on the dining room surface. On the left, everything true. Original deed, tax bills, church letters, my ID, the group chat printout DeAndre gave me, photos from the day I drank peach tea, which I did not. On the right, everything they'd tried. Business cards, the notary journal snapshot with the wrong ID, the white sedan card with the scratched-out number, the access notice with Tuesday circled. Down the middle, a list of names we might need to say out loud without shaking. I asked Alina if she was scared. She said she was busy. Fear takes the same space as focus, she said. I only have room for one. In the morning, Patrice came early with a tin of muffins and a look that meant she'd been awake thinking thoughts she didn't like. I can write a statement, she said. I thought this was logistics. I didn't understand the edge of it. She dabbed at her eyes with a napkin and wrote while the oven warmed the kitchen. DeAndre showed up in his work jacket and sat on the porch rail like a boy sneaking extra minutes before school. I can say what I saw in the chat, he said, voice low. I don't want to break us, but I don't want to break you. You can't break something by telling the truth about it, I said. You just stop pretending it wasn't cracked. Jerome drove by slow and didn't stop. Nicole texted that she had to work, but would be praying, which sounded like a person sending up a balloon instead of showing up with a bandage. Marcus sent nothing at all. By 9, we were at the courthouse, the building cool and proud, and smelling like old paper and metal detectors. Ms. Chen met us in the hallway with a stack of copies and a calm that fit the room. We're asking for a temporary order, she said. It's not the whole battle, it's a fence. We sat on a wooden bench and watched people with their own stories take turns under the same fluorescent lights. When our case was called, my knees remembered being 25 and 35 and 48. They forgot to creak. The judge listened more than he talked, which I've learned is a kind of power. Miss Chen went first, laying out the timeline clear as laundry on a line. She handed up our neat stack of everything true. Then the other side stood up. Evan was there in a suit that fit like a promise, and a lawyer I'd never seen. A woman with sharp glasses and shoes that didn't make a sound. She said the word ownership, the way some people say destiny. She used phrases that sound like oars moving water. Duly recorded, bona fide purchaser, efficiency of the market. When she was done, she nodded like a person satisfied with the table she just set. The judge asked me one question. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, "did you sign a deed transferring your home to Garden Row Properties?" "No, sir," I said. "I signed a receipt because a man put a pen in front of me and called it respect." He studied my face a long second. Then he turned to their table. "You claim a remote notarization," he said. "Do you have the recording?" The lawyer with the quiet shoes glanced at Evan. He said, "We can produce it this afternoon." The judge set his pen down. "Produce it," he said. "In the meantime, I am issuing a temporary restraining order enjoining any access, lock changes, utility transfers, or demands to vacate until this court determines the validity of the deed. Hearing on the merits is set for 2 weeks." I felt air move through me like a window had opened. Miss Chen squeezed my hand under the table once, quick, like an "I told you so." We were halfway down the courthouse steps when Alina's phone chimed. New email. Subject, remote session recording. E. Johnson. From Title Services. She tapped it open and turned the screen to me as we reached the sidewalk. There I was. Or someone trying to be me. A grainy video box showed a woman with gray hair pulled back and a blue cardigan like the one I wear to church on cool mornings. The notary's voice was thin and echoing. The woman on the screen said, "Evelyn Johnson," in a tone that didn't get my middle name right. Then the cursor scrawled my name on a digital line, the letters stiff like they were marching. Alina didn't say anything. She slowed the clip and zoomed in. On the left edge of the frame, for one blink of a second, a mirror flashed a reflection that didn't match the room. A vase I've never owned. A clock I've never heard. The woman's ear had a small notch at the top. Mine never has. Behind us, someone cleared a throat. We turned. Marcus stood a few steps up, hands jammed in his pockets, face pale and angry and something else. He looked at the phone, then at me. "I can explain," he said. The clip kept playing, thin voices scratching through the speaker, while the word explain hung between us like a wire. Marcus stood there, hands buried in his pockets like he was trying to hide them from himself. "I can explain," he said, eyes not meeting mine. "Then do it," I told him. "Explain, like you're talking to somebody who changed you and your brothers in the dark with a flashlight between her teeth." He sat on the courthouse bench, bent forward, elbows on his knees. I'm upside down on the rental, the truck payment, the cards. I thought if I could just get an assignment fee, we'd breathe. Evan said there was a buyer who closes fast, said a remote notarization is clean, no hassle. He said we'd handle the details and Mama wouldn't have to lift a finger. He swallowed. "I never wanted you on the street." "You wanted me off the deed," I said. He flinched. "It was supposed to be paper, a move." "Paper moves people," I said. "It moves them right out of their own lives if you're not careful." He rubbed his jaw. "I gave them a photo of your ID," he said finally, so low I almost didn't hear it. "From when I took a picture that time to set up the new utility login. I didn't think—" "You did think," I said. "Just not about me." Alina didn't say a word. She just wrote Marcus, admission, ID photo into her notebook, like a nurse charting a fever. Back home, Miss Chen called it what it was. We ask for quick discovery, she said. Audit logs, IP addresses, the full recording, the identity check results, every click. We also pull the company records for Garden Row, Secretary of State filings, registered agent, manager info. If there's an assignment lined up, there'll be emails, and we add a police supplement naming names. Alina already had a head start. By supper, she'd printed the articles of organization and their annual report. Garden Row listed a manager I didn't know and a mailbox that wasn't a building. But on page 3, under authorized signers, there was a name I knew, letter by letter, Marcus Johnson. The ink might as well have been a bruise. When she showed him, he stared at the line like it could blink and become kinder. It just meant I could answer calls, he said. Evan said they needed a family contact. Contact is a person you can dial, Alina said softly. Signer is a person who opens doors. Sunday night, the notary board left a message. The woman on the recording used a voice that carried rules, the way church ladies carry foil-wrapped pies. We have opened a case, she said. The commission number used on Wednesday belongs to a different notary in another county. The person who visited your home Saturday has an expired commission. Please retain any documents and recordings. It was the first time I'd heard an office voice sound like it might get mad for me instead of at me. Monday, the title company sent a new email, bright as a sales flyer. We can cure this cleanly, it said. If Mrs. Johnson signs a ratification and occupancy agreement, we'll rescind access requests and provide a $5,000 move-out grant, Miss. Chen typed one sentence back. Any cure premised on a forged deed is void. Preserve all evidence. Then she attached our TRO and hit send so hard you could hear the key. The house filled with small bravery. Patrice brought more muffins and signed her statement with a shaky loop on the P. DeAndre sat at the table and read his out loud once, then again, to make sure his words didn't slide anywhere they shouldn't. Tasha came by and couldn't stop fiddling with the spoons. She looked like guilt in human skin. I thought it was responsible, she said. I didn't see the teeth under it. I told her some traps look like help. She cried quietly into a dish towel and left her phone on the counter for Alina to copy the chats. Jerome didn't come inside. He idled at the curb, the truck's engine saying the things he didn't. Nicole texted prayers and a heart, then another heart, then this. I can bring something if you need. I stared at the little bubbles and typed back, bring truth. She didn't answer for a long time. That afternoon, Ms. Chen filed the motions. She asked for the platform's certificate of completion and whatever proof they had that the person in the video was me. She asked for the IP addresses in which device joined the session. She asked for the name of any credible witness. A phrase Alina explained is when someone vouches for your identity if you don't pass the questions. They thought they were smart, Alina said, tapping her pen. Smart people keep receipts. Right after sundown, Nicole finally knocked. She stood on my porch like a girl before a principal's office. In her hand was a thumb drive, and in her eyes was a storm. I didn't know the deed was already recorded, she said. I don't know what I thought. Here. She held the drive out like it was hot. There's a screenshot Marcus sent about a finder's fee. There's the message where Evan says they can massage identity checks. There's me being stupid. Stupid is a rest stop, I said. You don't have to live there. She cried until the tears ran out and her breath evened again like somebody turned a dial. Then she signed her statement and left with her shoulders lower. We made a war table again. Only this time it looked like a teacher's desk on conference night. On the left, things that belonged to me. On the right, things they tried to make belong to them. Down the middle, proof of the line. Late, when the house quieted, Alina and I stood at the sink, drinking water like it was medicine. "You tired?" she asked. "I'm stitched together with tired," I said. "But I'm holding." She smiled. "Tomorrow we print big exhibits. Judges are people. People like to see things as well as hear them." She drew a box on a sticky note and wrote "Exhibit" across it in block letters, the way she used to label her school folders when she was 9 and planning to be everything. Before bed, someone slid an envelope under the door. Inside was cash and a note with blocky letters. "Let the sale stand. No more trouble." The money smelled like someone else's life. Alina took photos, bagged it with gloved hands from under the sink like a TV detective, and texted Ms. Chen. Ms. Chen wrote back, "Evidence. Don't spend their conscience." Morning came heavy and clear. I put on my blue dress again. Church ladies always say you wear joy to a wedding and steadiness to a hearing. In the car, Alina read an email out loud, slow enough for all the words to land in the right places. Subject, Ron Certificate of Completion, E. Johnson. It listed the date and time. It listed KBA Attempt 1, failed. It listed KBA Attempt 2, passed. It listed a location ping in a co-working building 3 miles from the title office. It listed the device as a laptop with a serial we didn't recognize. And at the bottom, there was a line that turned my palms cold and my cheeks hot at the same time. Credible witness, Marcus Johnson. Alina's voice caught on the last name. She didn't look at me. She looked at the road. "It means," she said quietly, "that when the woman in the video couldn't answer the questions, old addresses, car notes, the street you grew up on, someone who claimed to know you swore to the notary that she was you. They wrote his name. They wrote my brother's name." We parked. The courthouse steps waited like they always have, stairs that don't care who climbs them. Inside, the hall smelled like old paper again. Ms. Chen met us at the door, her eyes going straight to the printout in Alina's hand. She read the last line and her mouth flattened into a thin, hard yes. The bailiff opened the courtroom and called the next case. Garden Row's lawyer glided in on quiet shoes. Evan sat behind her, phone face down for once. Darla was nowhere. The bench felt solemn and tall. Then the side door opened, and Marcus walked in, suit wrinkled, eyes ringed like he hadn't slept in a season. He saw the certificate in Ms. Chen's hand. He saw me. He stopped in the aisle like a man hitting water he thought was land. I felt the room lean toward the moment. The judge took the bench and looked down at us all. "Call your first witness," he said. And Alina stood, one hand on the exhibits, the other steady at her side, and said, clear as Sunday morning, "The plaintiff calls Marcus Johnson." Marcus walked to the witness chair like the ground might argue with him. He was sworn in, and for the first time in weeks he looked up and met my eyes. All the years between "Hold my hand, Mama," and "Sign here, Mama" sat right there on his face. Miss Chen didn't waste a step. "Mr. Johnson, this remote online notarization certificate lists a credible witness. Read the name, please." He swallowed. "Marcus Johnson. Is that you?" "Yes." "Did you vouch that the woman in the video was your mother, Evelyn Johnson?" A pause that tried to be a no and couldn't. "I did." Knowing she'd failed the knowledge-based questions the first time? He looked down. "Yes." "Why?" He had a dozen answers and none of them fit in his mouth. "Money," he said finally. "Debt. I thought it was just paper. They said it was normal." "They meaning Garden Row's agent, Mr. Bray?" He nodded. Evan stared at the table like it might give him a different day. Miss Chen laid the exhibits in order, the way you lay forks and knives and say grace. "Your Honor," she said, "Exhibit A is the clerk's alert and the deed, recorded without Mrs. Johnson's knowledge. Exhibit B is the notary journal snapshot. Wrong ID digits, blank thumbprint box, no address, an entry at a coffee shop where Mrs. Johnson demonstrably wasn't. See Exhibit B1, the church bulletin log. Exhibit C, the RON certificate. KBA failed first try. Second try passed. Not from Mrs. Johnson's device, and a credible witness named Marcus Johnson. Exhibit D, the video. Please note the ear notch, the mirror reflection, the clock that doesn't match Mrs. Johnson's home. Exhibit E, articles of organization for Garden Row, listing Marcus Johnson as an authorized signer. Exhibit F, text messages about a finder's fee and massaging identity checks. Exhibit G, the envelope of cash with the note, "Let the sale stand," which we produced to police. Exhibit H, notice to access an attempt to enter despite dispute. She breathed. The courtroom breathed with her. The judge watched it all like it was a story he'd heard before, told by a better storyteller this time. He turned to Marcus. "Mr. Johnson, did you understand the effect of the deed?" "I thought I did," Marcus said. "I thought we'd move her to a place. Sell, use an account, fix things." "Fix whose things?" the judge asked. He didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. Marcus didn't pick a safer lie. "Mine." The judge nodded once. A small grave bell. "Step down." Garden Row's lawyer tried to row us backward over water we'd already crossed. "Duly recorded instruments carry a presumption," she said. "My client is a bona fide—" "The presumption is not a shield for fraud," the judge said, calm as a shut door. He turned to Evan. "Where is your notary?" "Unavailable," Evan said. "Not a good day to be unavailable," the judge replied, and the clerk's pen made a little sound on the docket like a period. "Miss Chen called me, and I told the truth like I was hanging laundry, one piece at a time straight, with the clothespins where anyone could see them. The Tuesday papers, the navy blazer, the remote video that wasn't me, the contractor at my door, the church basements and burnt coffee, the case number taped up next to the peephole, the way Alina writes questions under placemats so I don't have to memorize what justice owes me." The judge asked me one question when I finished. "Mrs. Johnson, what does this house mean to you?" "Time," I said. "It means time that nobody can take back and nobody should take ahead. I wrote children's names on door frames here. I buried a sister and mourned her in that front room. I boiled soup when the money was thin. It's not just walls. It's a promise I made to myself when I had nothing but a paycheck and a prayer. We will be safe here." He nodded like he'd heard that promise before in other rooms, from other women who kept their families standing when nothing else did. When the judge spoke, it was careful and final. "The court finds sufficient evidence, indeed, overwhelming evidence, of fraud and identity misrepresentation. The deed recorded to Garden Row Properties is void ab initio. I am ordering its immediate cancellation and directing the clerk to strike it from the chain of title. Further, I am extending the temporary restraining order into a preliminary injunction. No access, no lock changes, no occupancy demands, no utility transfers. I award attorney's fees for today's hearing to the plaintiff. The matter of the notary and any criminal conduct is referred to the county attorney. Counsel, prepare an order." It's a quiet thing when a boulder moves off your chest. Sound returns in layers you forgot you were missing. The rustle of paper, someone's shoes, the soft breath you didn't know you were holding until it leaves. Outside the courtroom, Evan tried for one last trick, a voice that pretended to be reasonable. "We can make this painless," he said to Miss Chen. "We can—" "You've made it plenty painful," she said, and did not slow her walk. On the steps, Marcus stood apart from the others, a man who'd come to a fence he built and couldn't climb. Alina looked at him a long time. I don't know how to be your sister and your witness at the same time, she said, very gentle. But I know how to be somebody's daughter, so I'm going to do that first. He nodded once, like a man accepting weather. I'll tell the DA everything, he said. About Evan, about Darla, about the buyer, about the envelope. Do it because it's right, I said, not because it's easy. It's not easy, he said. His face broke in the middle, and he walked away because some sorries aren't built to stand up straight in front of a woman you tried to move out of her own life. The days that followed were full of little logistics, paper that had to be signed to undo paper that should never have been signed to begin with. The clerk stamped the cancellation, and the instrument number came back to me like a dog that finally heard its name again. The notary board opened a formal proceeding. I didn't have to hear what was said to know that Darla's expired stamp wouldn't press anyone else's life flat again. Someone from the county attorney's office called and asked me to come tell the story one more time, which I did because repetition is how truth grows roots. Ms. Chen set up a trust, the kind Alina had drawn in pencil weeks ago. The house went into it like a pearl into a safe box. I'm the trustee. Alina is the protectress, with a long, careful title that basically means if anyone tries to do this to me again, the law will have a head start. We changed the locks not because a piece of paper told me I had to, but because the sound of a new key turning is a good thing to hear after you've listened to doors being measured for someone else's schedule. My children came in these odd waves. Patrice first, with pies that made the kitchen smell like memory. DeAndre came with a toolbox and a promise to fix the loose step. Tasha came quiet, carrying a plant, and the kind of apology you have to water. Calvin mowed the front yard without telling me he was coming. Nicole brought a folder with every login and autopay printed out and labeled, then left it on the table and cried into her hands like a girl who'd found out grown up is heavier than it looked from the window. Jerome took longer. He always has. He sat on the porch one evening and asked if a man can be good in the morning, and the same man can make something crooked in the afternoon. He can, I said, and then he can stand up straight the next day and keep trying. We talk about Marcus like you talk about a storm you lived through. He met with the DA and the police. He told the truth in rooms without windows. There are consequences, like there should be. Maybe a plea, maybe probation, maybe a program where you look the people you hurt in the face and say their names until you know how to hold them like glass. He asked if he could come by. I told him the house does not love lies. When he's ready to bring me honesty and a plan, the door will understand his knock. As for Evan, paper can move fast, but sometimes justice can too. Garden Row's mailbox went quiet. The buyer that was really a ladder for other men's greed learned that neighborhoods have memories, and that a deed recorded in the dark turns to ash in daylight. The first Sunday after the order, I cooked a pot of stew because a home needs certain smells to remember itself by. Alina set bowls on the table and laughed at the way I like my spoon on the right, even though I'm left-handed. We ate with the windows open, listening to children ride bicycles on the street like good news, and when the porch light came on by itself, I didn't jump. Habit and safety wear the same shoes if you let them. Later, when the house settled into its night noises, Alina brought out her notebook and drew one more box and one more arrow. "What now?" she asked. "Now we make it harder for the next person to try this," I said. We signed up 3 other ladies from church for the clerk's fraud alerts. We printed a list for the bulletin board. Verify the notary. Get a lawyer's eyes. Don't let anyone call theft standard. Ask who benefits now. Leave a paper trail thicker than their nerve. And when the porch steps creaked under Miss Ruth's weight the following Wednesday, she brought over a pie and a sentence I'd put in my pocket if I could. Truth got tired of waiting outside, she said, so it came in and sat where it belonged. That night, I stood in the hallway under the family picture and counted faces like I always do. I touched each one with a fingertip, the way a person might check on sleeping children, even if some of those children have mortgages and mistakes. When I reached Alina, I left my hand there a moment longer, the way you touch a door you've just locked from the inside, grateful for the click that means home. They thought the pen was the end of me. It was the beginning of them learning what my name sounds like when I say it myself. They thought they'd win with a signature that didn't have my hand in it. But a house like mine stands on promises, and I still know how to keep mine. If you felt something in this story about ordinary people and the fights they never asked for, I'd be grateful if you subscribed, left a like, and shared your thoughts in a comment. There are more stories coming about regular lives and the hard, beautiful ways truth finds a way to stand.